Assignment for computer animation, what we're going to be doing is animating some text and letters and using a couple new features in Flash to animate an onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia is a word that sounds just like it's spelled or pronounced, essentially. So here I've got kind of bomb coming in and going boom, and using our previous assignment in this as well. So a couple of new techniques we're going to go over. One is distributing letters to different layers. Nice little feature of Flash that can help you take a word and animate it. So what we want to start with is actually consulting Google or any other sorts of onomatopoeias. Here's a nice image from a Google search that gives me a whole bunch of ideas. So any one of these words could be something you choose to animate. I'm going to go ahead and do boom again, just kind of walk you through the same process as I had done in my first practice animation. So what we want to do first is take our type tool, and we will go ahead and make a type text box, and I will type boom and exclamation point. Heck, maybe I'll go with 2 this time. Alright, just to add a little something extra here for you. So what I want to do with this text box now, I'm just going to take it actually, squish it just a little smaller so it fits my text really tight. And I'm going to move this boom to about the center of the stage. And what I want to do now is I can go ahead and take a second to think about the choice of font. This impact text is a nice bold text, works really well for this type of word. You may want to change your text to something else depending on the nature of what word you have. You know, if you have something more like zap or zing, you know, you may want to use more of kind of like a cursive, kind of like a fast looking font than something more like impact, which is what I went for the boom. So, you know, make sure you consider that when making your choice. Now that I have kind of my font written and chosen, I'm going to go ahead and press Window and B or Command B to break apart this text. I believe that if we go to our Edit bar, that is where we can find that, but maybe I meant to, here we are, Modify. So if we go to Modify, B, Window B, break apart, that will break our word into all different kind of characters. Okay, so now what we want to do with that is we want to use another feature under Modify and go to Timeline and then Distribute to Layers. And what that's going to do is create a different layer for every letter here or character in my text. Alright, so that kind of makes things a little bit easier. We have a layer 1, which is kind of like a base background layer, nothing on it, and then a different layer for each letter in our term. Okay, so now this will make it a little bit easier to animate our actual word here. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is actually continue working on each individual letter. So I'm going to go into each and break it apart again because I'd like to fill it with a gradient, and I don't believe that if you try and switch to linear, see how I'm doing that on text, it won't do it. But if I break this apart, so now this is a raw graphic, and then I change my fill type to linear, I can fill this letter with a gradient, which is another really cool thing that we could do to kind of add to our animation effect. I want to rotate this gradient because I'm going to ultimately want the orange side at the top of the text, yellow on the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing with each of my letters. So I'm going to break it apart again and change my fill mode to linear and then rotate that gradient. So I'm going to go ahead right down the line and edit each of these letters to have a linear gradient flowing upwards with the kind of yellow to orange gradient going on. Oops, so you got to break that apart first, then go to linear, and then rotate that gradient. So again, you want to take this symbol, you want to press Window and B or Modify, break apart to do it one more time, and then we'll go to linear, take this gradient. If you don't already have your transform gradient tool selected, click where you'd like to do it, and then rotate a gradient. Now this isn't a requirement that you fill your text with a gradient. I'm just going for it because it's an effect that I think is nice to add in here. So again, oops, I need to break this apart, and then I can go to linear gradient fill, and now when I take my transform tool, you'll notice on these exclamation points I have to do each part of the exclamation point separately. Okay, nice. Now nice kind of gradient flow all going upwards. And what I'm going to do actually is now back up and start to the part where kind of the bomb kind of flows in from off the scene. Okay, so and this you again need with your example you can do anything you want. You know, maybe a basketball, you know, flying into a basketball hoop, or any other kind of effect that you'd like to create. You know, a rocket taking off or something like that. But I'm going to keep it quick and simple. As far as this tutorial goes, I'm going to take this new layer here and call it bomb. And on that layer, I'll go ahead and draw a circle. Holding shift will kind of help me get a good circle going. I want the fill for this to be a black. Okay, so I'll take my paint bucket tool, fill that in black. I could, if I wanted to, take this and actually make it a gradient. I deleted the outline just because that is nice to do, but I can, yeah, if I really want to add to kind of the effect here, I can make this a gradient, going from kind of black to white. It'll give this a little bit more dimension to it. I'll leave the white in the middle as kind of a highlight. I'll use my gradient transform tool to kind of move that gradient up to the upper corner a little bit. And like I said, using something like a gradient will always kind of give you a little more of a three-dimensional effect. And that should work. I do want to go ahead and take this and convert it into a graphic. So I'm going to call this da bomb. And I'm going to go in and edit it just a little bit further. I'm going to use my pen tool. I'm going to zoom in here and just kind of make the fuse part that comes off of the bomb. So again, I'm just kind of adding a little rectangular shape here. Oops, not sure what happened with that last line. Let's kind of take this again. Click on the end point there, click over here, click there. One more time to get back to the start. I'll take my paint bucket and fill that in with a gradient again. I guess that works pretty well. I think I actually would want that to be more of a linear gradient. So let's try linear and then go with that. I think that that looks a little more believable here in this instance. And then I'll also kind of take my brush tool. I might take a brush that's a little bit smaller than this and make kind of just like the fuse coming off the end. Alright, and that should work for now. Again, trying to keep things pretty simple for now. I would like this, so the bomb will be on the top layer. I think that that works fine. I'm going to not want these letters to come in until after the bomb swings onto the stage. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and animate the bomb coming in. What we'll need to use is something we've done before in our other assignments, is add a motion guide. So I'm adding a motion guide layer here. I'm going to take my paintbrush, maybe make it a bit smaller, and give it a fill of something that, you know, I'll be able to recognize on the screen as being separate as part of my guide. Make sure you're on your guide layer. I'm just going to draw a line that kind of swoops up on the stage, comes down, and then kind of lands in the middle. Actually, where I want that to go is right in the middle. There, that should work. So that is my motion guide line. That should work there. I'll take the bomb and I'll move it over to my motion guide, make sure it overlaps that point in the center. See how that jumps onto that spot. I'll go ahead, maybe let's say 10 frames. create a new keyframe. I'm going to go ahead and make this whole animation last maybe 35 frames, and just press F5. That way everything's present that whole time. I want the bomb to start here, and then the bomb is going to land, or on this keyframe it should land right about here. Okay, so I could go ahead, add a motion tween in there, and check and make sure that this is going along its path, which it looks like it's doing correctly. Now, so when the bomb gets here, that's when it's going to explode, and then we're going to see the boom. So what I'm going to do here is actually show you really quickly how we can kind of make this bomb explode, kind of an exploding effect using shape tweens. So I'm going to add a new keyframe right after this, and I'm going to break this bomb apart again. So Window B, or modify and go to break apart. Okay, so now that it's broken apart, I can't break it apart again. But what I'm going to do is now make a shape tween. I'm going to go ahead a couple of frames, press F6, and I'm going to delete the bomb. Okay, and now in this frame, what I'm going to want it to turn into is just a bunch of black fragments that are kind of around the frame edge. So I'm just going to go around the edge of my stage and make a bunch of kind of black dash marks, because what I want is for the bomb to kind of splash and spread into all these little parts. Okay, so now that I have that, if I use a shape tween here, for that to transform into all these little black dots, it's going to kind of break this apart and make it scatter. So if I go to create shape tween now, what we should see is that the bomb explodes and then transforms into all those little black dots I put around the outside. So let's take a look at this really quick. You see the bomb floats in. Boom is already there, so we obviously need to move our letters back in our timeline a little bit. I'm going to press on this kind of first keyframe here, hold shift, and then click on the last one. Now very carefully I'm going to kind of click and hold on that first letter and click and drag, and I want these to come all the way out here, I think right to where the bomb starts to explode. So let's just preview that really quick, see what happens, and there we have it. So the boom happens. The bomb. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start to animate these letters a little bit. So something we can do is, now that we have each on their own layer, we can go ahead and transform them, make them twist, rotate. I'm just going to simply make mine kind of grow in size. So I'm going to kind of pull down on each one a little bit. Oops. But I want to create a new keyframe. I guess I just make these line up just about in order with the explosion. So I'm going to kind of just go right here next to this, click, hold shift, and then click on that bottom layer, and now I'll just press F6 to get new keyframes all across the way. So I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to stretch this B down, go on to the next one. I'll stretch it down to kind of match, and I'll just go down the line this way, kind of adding two letters here. So I kind of want to take both of these at once. Alright, so just holding shift and then clicking on either one. So press and hold shift and then click on the second one, and you'll get both of those parts. Okay, so now what I need to do is add shape tweens here to make these all change. If I highlight them all again and then right click, go to shape tween, or you find it down in this bar down here, it'll add tweens to each one and every one of those layers. So now we have another preview here. You got the boom coming in and the letters growing down. The other thing I was going to do is actually go ahead and bring in the flame animation from our previous project. So I'm going to add another fresh layer here. I want this one to actually be all the way in the foreground, so on top of the bomb. So the bomb comes in, explodes, letters grow, get bigger, And then once the letters are kind of bigger, we want to add a new keyframe here, and I can simply copy that that piece of the animation from my library. I believe I should still have it. Nope, if I do go over to my other project though, I brought in my fire animation. So if I wanted to, for what you would probably need to do is to go to File, Open, look for your flame animation. Let's see if I can get this open here. If I go to open this fire file, alright, I can go ahead and take any one of these from our different layers of flame animation. Just kind of right click, copy it, go back to my demo here, right click and paste. Alright, and now I have my fire movie clip right here. Okay, so if I double click on this, you can see I have keyframe animated flames going on in here. What I wanted to do is just resize this. So I'm going to press Q to get my free transform tool up. And I want it to fit, you know, basically right on top of the lettering here. So I'm just going to drop it down a little bit lower and resize that so it fits pretty close. And then I got kind of these flaming letters going on here. So I might zoom in just a little bit. I think I just want to close that up just a smidge so that they really match pretty closely there on the edges. There we go. That looks pretty good. I might just take it, scoot this up a little bit. Alright, and let's take a zoom out and see what we have. So bomb comes in, goes boom, and we have some animated flames going on. So there's an animated onomatopoeia. So my example is word boom. You can choose any from any list of onomatopoeias that you want, and I hope you have lots of luck and have some fun with it while you're at it.